is abnormally intense immune response from your immune system. There are 4 types of hypersensitivities, as it should be. We're going to start with type 1. Also known as immediate hypersensitivity. It is an allergic response. Okay. The mechanism can be described briefly as follows. So you have allergen exposure, which results in the activation of B cells and mounting of IgE production. Now this immunoglobulin E binds to mast cells. In some severe cases, it can bind to basophils. But the point is, remember, mast cells are in the tissues and they're responsible for release of inflammatory cytokines. Now check this out. Then, nothing happens at this point. When IgE binds to mast cells, nothing happens. What happens is, when you get a secondary allergen exposure, so second allergen exposure, allergen binds to IgE, and that results in mast cell degranulation. Am I clear? So essentially, you don't get a response from the first try often. You get it from the subsequent tries, right? Now, okay. Now, a few things. Depending on where mast cells degranulate, you're going to have a specific response. If it's in the skin, you're going to have hives. If it's in the nose, you're going to have, stuffed nose, congestion. If mast cells degranulate throughout the body, entire body, you have so much cytokines, so much histamine being released that it results in the constriction of bronchioles, so you start to asphyxiate, and dilation of blood vessels. So blood pressure drops, and you develop what's called anaphylactic shock. Does that make sense? This is why, EpiPen, which constricts your blood vessels and relaxes your bronchiolar smooth muscle so you can breathe again. Technically speaking, you can cure allergy by constantly exposing yourself to an allergen. You will degranulate all mast cells, and then they will be gone. It's really hard, but it can be done. Okay, you can cure allergy, by building an immune tolerance. So you give a person a small doses of allergen, and the immune system starts to mount up tolerance. So it doesn't treat it as an antigen eventually. Now, type 2 hypersensitivity is mediated by immunoglobulin G, and it's essentially transfusion reactions. So it's the time to introduce or talk a little bit about the blood groups, okay? So your red blood cells have various surface antigens on them. Does that make sense? There are hundreds of blood groups and thousands perhaps of blood types. Okay, but we're going to talk about classic Landsteiner blood groups O, A, B, and AB. So in red blood cells that have no surface antigen, we consider it a blood group O. Okay? Red blood cells that have A surface antigen, it's the blood group A. B, obviously blood group B, and both A and B will be, well, AB blood group. Blood type, I'm sorry. Does that make sense? Not only this, you do have surface antigens on the red blood cells, but you also have antibodies. Okay? You have antibodies against those antigens. Antigens here, they are called agglutinogens. Okay? So these antigens are agglutinogens. And antibodies are called agglutinins. Now, if you look at the distribution, check this out. So where are the antibodies? Look, antibodies are in plasma. Does that make sense? Are you following me? So, I'm type O. My red blood cells have no surface antigen. Can you see that? But in my plasma, I have antibodies against both A and B. If somebody has a blood type A, in the plasma they're going to have antibodies against an antigen B. If somebody has a blood type B, in their plasma they're going to have antibodies against A. And finally, people with blood type AB that have both surface antigens on the red blood cells have no antibodies against them in the blood. Does it make sense? Why we care? Because during transfusion, we have to pay attention at the match between the infused red blood cells and the plasma of the recipient. In other words, if you think about transfusion reactions in the standard blood transfusion, you follow me, standard, I'm not talking platelets, I'm not talking like any other exotic stuff, just good old blood transfusion. If we're talking about this, we need to think about the surface antigen of the donor and antibodies of the recipient. So for instance, which blood group will be a universal recipient? AB, right? Because they have no antibodies, so they can receive anything. Which blood group, blood type, I keep saying blood type, blood type, which blood type will be a universal donor? O.